feel like through editing though, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I can watch myself.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy watching myself now.
It's
right. I'm neutral to it.
Yeah, it's not as bad when I'm in control in the editing room and I'm seeing the takes and even then I try to if I'm editing a scene that I'm in, I try to put vanity aside and be like, okay, it's because maybe I don't look that quite great in that shot, but I try to always edit it according to does it serve the story. I always try to do that, but sometimes it's hard when it's your own ego and your own vanity that gets in the way and you're in the shot and you try to want to make yourself look as great as possible. But I also try to consider, does this serve the story? Does this shot, does this angle serve the script? Maybe I look, maybe I deliver the line better in this one take, but the other take is more dramatic and it's more, and it serves the reaction of the previous shot.
Yeah.
But I do realize that when I'm editing the film that I'm in, it's easier for me to watch myself. It still gets hard when I have to premiere it in front of like people, and I'm like, ah.
Also, when you sorry I cut you off.
No, that's pretty much
when do you find that you mentioned you like to do like one takes a lot, like, or as much as you can?
I try to, yeah.
Do you also like it? And this is true for me. Do you like it also because they're more consistent? Because like if you cut to different like coverage of different things, I found with Feeding the Fire, I learned that I wanted to do. That's where I got the idea of doing a one take for Rusty Spade, because I was like, I really enjoy like picking one take for the entire scene, like a master shot, and letting it play out. Like I probably did that more than I should have. I've heard from Feeding the Fire, some people were like, why don't you cut the coverage? We got some amazing coverage for this different stuff. I'm like, but the master has everything I want, and it gives the audience the opportunity to pick what they're looking at. Now, granted, I used to do the podcast with one camera, but the thing is, you're getting a subpar angle of each person's face from a wide two shot, unless we're facing the camera, which would be unnatural.
Yeah.
With this, it's a split screen. I do, but it's like we're getting a front on shot, which is more personal. And so, but it's also why with sketches I did two camera take setup. But I find, if you want to cut to things that match the life, the performance and the life of the previous shot.
Yes. There's something really, really fun about watching a film that has like a single long take that I absolutely love. I just love it, and I just really love it, and I think that has to do with my theater background. But like it's just something I love watching a movie where where I realize that that the camera has not cut and this scene's still going, and I just love it because it's just especially if the scene is full of energy, or if the characters aren't given the energy, then the camera is given the energy. And it's there's something really, really,
it's putting emphasis
great about it.
It's building intensity when you linger on something.
And I realized that actually my last 3 films, I was not able to put a scene in there that had one long take in there. I just realized that. So but this other film that I'm slowly writing for will incorporate that more. But there's something it's always something that I think a lot of non-filmmakers don't catch, because I'm always find myself in the room watching a movie, and like my sister would be over here and I'd be like, hey, do you know that camera's still rolling? They haven't cut to any other like face. And she'll be like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like
and then sometimes they don't notice the cuts.
They don't notice it. And I'm like, no, they've been on this person for like 2 minutes and the camera has not cut or nothing. The camera turns, but it doesn't cut. And so, but like, I just love it. I think there's just something really, really magical about it. It's just, it's for every actor to hit their marks, for the camera to hit their marks. It's just something I always think is super great. And I don't know. I love it.
Quick question.
Yes.
What is your editing process like? And how do you find out where to cut?
So when sometimes as we are filming the scene, that on that day of, I am already starting to strategize in my brain, like what, how I'm going to edit this scene in the editing room. So sometimes I sort of know how the edit's going to be in real time as we're filming it. Otherwise, I sit down, uh, uh, I sit down with looking at the different takes that I have for the specific scene, and I will start off. Hmm, I don't know how to. Sometimes I start off in the wide, sometimes I start off in the close up. But I normally, as I'm watching it, I feel it out, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that, if anyone watching this is gonna, if that's gonna make any sense. But I kind of feel it out as a viewer where I want the next scene, the next take, the next shot to pop in. It's and then I will go back and I will rewatch what I've just the 30 seconds or whatever that I just compiled together, and I watch it and try to feel if it's like, sometimes it's too jumpy, sometimes the shots go too quickly, and there needs to be some more um space in between them. But I really sit back and try to feel it out and see if it's in the, if the pacing is correct. That's really kind of like a trial and error for me. And I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's kind of how I do. I really got to just sit there and just feel it out and see, like, if I'm watching something like, you know what, no, we're lingering on his face way too long, we need to cut earlier. Or sometimes it's just too quick. It's just, I don't know. I have to weigh the urgency of that scene or the pacing of that scene. That all kind of goes into what I decide.
My answer to that is, or the way I edit is, I'll rewatch what we have. Like, I'll look at the footage and without starting editing until I rewatch or the stuff that I know is good, and that we can work with. And then I'll get a strategy from watching it, like, where can we cut? And I'll kind of scrub through and figure it out. I don't start cutting until I have a strategy. Okay. And I might write it down briefly, like just notes. But I get an idea for, like, what's the clay I have to work with, and that's what we actually captured. It's not what I had in my head, what I wanted to, because what we captured is going to be different from what I had in my head. Yeah. But I try to get what we captured to match as much as possible what I had in my head, if it can. Yeah. But sometimes the performance is strong in something, and or it makes sense to cut to this and then cut to this other thing. But, you know, with Feeding the Fire, I tried not to compromise on what my initial hope was with, like, how to cut this scene, based on what felt right, what is instinctive. And then once I have the strategy, I start going and, syncing up all the audio and whatnot, doing all that, but then getting the clips that I want. And the way I edit, I stand up when I edit. I don't sit down when I edit. All the advice I got from editing, or some of the advice I got, is from the book In the Blink of an Eye. It's actually here. In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch. One of the best books on this guy. He edited Apocalypse Now. Okay. He edited The Godfather Part 2, I think, Part 3. I forget. He's done The Conversation by Francis Ford Coppola. He has a classical method of cutting. So he stands up, kind of like Hemingway would stand up doing writing. I don't stand up when I write. I have to sit down when I write. But for editing, I stand up because I feel all the restless energy. I feel grounded. Okay. I don't have the restless energy I used to have when I edit sitting down. So I can actually edit for longer and enjoy it, because I can walk around while I'm editing and come back to the station where I'm editing, or like a standing desk. And what I do is, when I find out where I want to cut, I know where I want to cut from the strategy. Like, I want to cut somewhere around here. I have a ballpark area. But the reason why the book's called In the Blink of an Eye, I have a button that I press that puts a creates a marker, and then you can, like, name the marker or something. But you can do it on, like, depending on, I know Adobe Premiere does this. I think the button is star something for DaVinci Resolve, which I use now, is it's M for marker. You press the button when you blink. Okay. When you blink, that's a cut. and then I'll cut. Then I'll trim 4 frames ahead of where I blinked.
All right.
And that's usually the most natural place to cut. Why? Because when you cut, why when we see a cut in a movie do we think, oh, that's okay, I'm cool with us cutting to another complete different shot? That's completely acceptable. When there's what in real life looks like a cut, because here's the thing, we have, like, if you're taking of human evolution, we've spent thousands of years. If we had never seen anything that looked remotely like a cut, when the moment somebody spliced one piece of footage to another piece of footage, we would have freaked the fuck out. We would have been like, what is going on? This is not acceptable. We cannot allow this. We cannot cut to this shot to this shot. I can't accept us cutting from this thing to another thing. When we do it all the time, we blink. A blink is a cut. When I'm looking over there, I don't look over there. Sometimes I do. But when I look from you to the light, sometimes I blink when I go to look. Right. And when I blink, that's a new shot. I just created a new shot when I blinked. Yeah. I like my eyes close and then I open them up on a different thing. We do it all the time. We splice things together through blinking. And there's one of Walter Murch's theories is blinking is also representative of a new thought. When we blink, we're having a new thought. So you see like TV reporters or us right now on camera, we're probably blinking a lot at certain times. Sure. There's times where I watch the podcast, I'm like, I'm blinking a lot because I know when I was in that moment, I was thinking of a million things after another. And that's why I'm thinking of like if I'm blinking right now, right, I'm doing it on purpose. But like, there's probably times at this podcast where if somebody's watching, like, I'm blinking a lot. This is because I'm thinking of a lot of next questions to ask you. Or I'm not even, or I should be listening to you more, or I'm thinking of questions that are coming from what you're saying. Right. And, you know, as you're talking, you're blinking. And also, like, sometimes picking where the actor, also, what he found, though, was he thinks that's true because where he blinked in editing the footage, a lot of times coincided with where the actor blinked. Okay. Because he was cutting to the performance. He was in sync with the actor. Yeah. Instinctively. He didn't know it when he was cutting, or maybe might have, but he just like he was cutting based on when the thought felt like it was over. And it seemed to coincide a lot with the actors. All right. It seemed. All right. So try that sometime. Okay. Where when you edit, find the button that creates a marker, or just press pause when you want. But if you create the marker button, if you can find which I think it's star on the number pad. You press that for Premiere, and M for DaVinci, but you can also program it in certain programs. You got to go into preferences, but you can actually create multiple markers. Okay, I'm blinking here. You're just I'm blinking, like each time you blink, you press the button, and then I'll personally cut 4 frames ahead. The reason why, me pressing the button from where I want is a little bit delayed. Also, to cut a little bit sooner than the blink so that it's a bit more surprising. Got it. You know? So that's what I learned from that book. And I highly recommend, I'll message you it. In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch. Right. I highly recommend that book. And that helped me simplify editing so much and speed up my process, because I now know the most natural place to cut. And when people watch my movies, like, I feel like I get a sense that this is feels more like an older movie, because this is a kind of philosophy. It's a philosophy rooted in human nature and in life. And it's not rooted in this bullshit cliche of, oh, cut on the action. Well, you can do that, but if that's all you're doing, you're building the way you cut on artifice. You're not building it based on internal feelings, on emotion, you're not building it on human nature, when you can cut on the blink. And that's what more a poetic way of explaining. And by the way, Walter Murch is a fucking poet. He was an editor and a fucking poet. Well, not a poet, but like he had a very philosophical mind. Like you read his stuff, he's like, this is a guy who was like, he wasn't just an editor, he was a character. He had a very thought out approach for a lot of things. But yeah, you know, that's how I edit. I had it standing up,
Okay.
which helps for me. My ADHD. What's a dream project for you if money weren't an obstacle?
Ooh. Ooh. If money wasn't an obstacle, what's a dream project?
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this podcast clip. For notes and links to things mentioned on the show, my films, full episodes, or other selected clips, go to proffitableproductions.com/podcast. Profitable is spelled like my name with 2 F's and 2 T's. Also, for updates on future episodes, follow me on Instagram at Proffitt Take and at Profitable Productions. Consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out a lot. Thanks again. Catch you on the next take.